day 1303. I was going to come on at around 10. Um, and here we are burning the midnight oil um, at 10 p.m. Um, Eastern Standard Time. So, but just didn't happen. So I'm going on now. Um, so we're at day 1303, and it just so much is coming out. The news is helping us. What is going on politically with President Trump is helping us because I think the corruption of our Department of Justice is being exposed. And, it is like warfare, legal warfare. And it is, different times. If you like history, you understand wars are not always fought the same way. You can fight wars, with bombs and or bullets, or with trenches, or with gases, or you can fight it with propaganda. You can fight it with most of them are fought with propaganda to get people all riled up so that they fight each other, right? That they will obey a dictator or a tyrannical positions. They rile you up, and so you fight each other, and um, it's just no justice there at all. No thought of what God says about how to wage war. Our country here in the United States is supposed to declare war, and we haven't done that in a while. They just the warmongers, and what makes a warmonger? It is one that doesn't have to fight themselves. They don't have to put themselves in harm's way. They don't have to sit in the trenches. They don't have to be, in Poland right now on the Russian border, trying to intimidate and poke the bear of Russia. Like they're really, God's hand has been all over this because my parents, when Russia was still communist, where, if you heard the bell ringing of a yogurt truck, you had to run because you haven't had yogurt in months. And you just had to find any kind of paper around if you didn't have a container. And they would just scoop it out in big barrels. And, you would just have to hold your hand out or take your hat off and let the yogurt go into your hat, or any kind of paper you could find, uh, any kind of container, and then stand in line for hours and hours for tomatoes because you haven't had tomatoes and maybe a year. And what about stories that I heard, and no customer service because uh, it wasn't about small businesses. Everything was state owned, and they were known. The USSR were known, absolutely known, for one major thing. Do you know what it was? Squeaky shoes. Squeaky shoes. Why? Because they only had a couple pair of shoes. They only had a couple pair of shoes. There was no competition on having good shoes, so everybody had squeaky shoes because the shoes were so terrible. Uh, you know, the stories that I was fortunate to have because I was in a family that my dad served in the American Embassy in USSR, saw the changeover. My mom worked in the adoptions office there in the embassy. Stories from there. And that they happened to be there in the 90s, that they happened to be there when they saw the attack on the Russian White House with Yeltsin, and the stories there. And now, that kind of warfare, a warfare where you are at war with your own people, right? You are at war with your own people. You don't allow them to have their businesses. You overtax them, so much so that you have so much control over them that there is nothing left but them to just take the crumbs that you give them and not have anything of their own. No property, no property ownership. You see, that's where this is leading, where everybody is living in a government provided house, government provided food, government provided everything, and it's just leads to squeaky shoes, right? It leads to squeaky shoes, and um, I and waiting in line for hours and hours if you want some bananas, right? And then sitting down and eating 3 bananas at one time because it's been so long since you had a banana and it tastes so good. Who did I hear that from? From a little boy that when the Iron Curtain came down, and I don't want to tell you his name, he was 9 years old at the time, and we sponsored him in the United States to come and live with us for 3 months. And when he came to visit us, and we were living in Montgomery County, in Maryland, which is the northern county of Washington, D.C. So you can imagine this is a very wealthy county. And here he comes, 9, 10 years old, he was at the time, with his little thin, squeaky shoes, because they were plastic with a little material with little duckies on it, right? Um, not prepared at all for the culture in the United States. And my dad had made arrangements that he would go to a sports camp that summer. Can you imagine sending him to a sports camp with little ducky printed on cloth squeaky shoes? Can you imagine? No. So, first thing we did was go to like a Walmart. Was it a Walmart? I think it was Walmart. I wanted to say Kmart, but I think it was Walmart. And we maybe it was Target. I don't know. I think it was Walmart. Anyway, um, and this is so important because the child could not believe what we had. He could not believe what we had, what he saw, the choices that he saw. Um, yes, they did. Yes, they did. Um, yeah. Uh, this was a little boy, and I'm, these look at this one person here doesn't even understand what it means to be in a communist situation, in a state-run situation. Here, the Iron Curtain came down, and this little boy came to stay with us. He wasn't prepared. We went. The choices, we bought him sports shoes and outfits and everything like that, sent him to sports camp. He had the time of his life. Um, I know that, I heard him in the bathroom one time. This is a story I'll never forget. And I'm like, and I don't want to say his name, but I'm like, are you okay? Is there any way I can help you or whatever? And he opened the door and he goes, oh, yeah, I'm just washing my clothes. I said, really? You're washing your clothes? He was standing in the bathtub washing his clothes that we had bought him that he had used at sports camp. And I was like, you know what? we have a wash machine. We have a wash machine. And I showed him the washing machine, and he was almost like wanting to take it apart to see how it worked. It was so amazing to him. This is a 9-year old, right? A 9-year old. Um, so to see the weaponization of our justice system, to see people that are willing to make a mockery out of our justice system. I mean, to listen to what has been going on with Fannie Willis and her father and her sex partner. It's like Leilani Hart. Uh, the people want to say affair. No, they didn't have an affair. They had an adulterous sex act. That's what it was, right? And it could have been with many people, because this is what has been going on. These uh, absolutely unhinged people that have no loyalty to anybody. And what they do is take advantage and use it to profit or use it to control people, right? They use it to control people, and Leilani Hart was very good at this because she controlled the CID. She controlled other agencies, or you know, uh, well, I'll get to the people. I'll get to the people. um, but because we have proof. We have proof. We have witnesses that people were being taken advantage of to use them, to use their hotel, to get these certain prominent people in prominent positions under their control. And this is the way they covered things up. And one of these people that has come out is Chris Grant, Ernest Chris Grant. And any little research that where is the proof? The proof. I'll answer your questions in a minute. But I want to talk about my concerns for Christopher Grant. Um, you know, absolutely total perpetual criminal, involved with the media. Um, we have intelligence that's telling us that he's involved with Dreams Cabaret. That means Leilani Hart was getting her mail at Dreams Cabaret. So if she's getting her mail at Dreams Cabaret, like she's, working there, maybe partial owner, invested there. I mean, she's getting her mail there. So I don't know if Chris Grant, how he was involved in Dreams Cabaret. Intelligence is telling us that he was involved with Dreams Cabaret. So that puts those two together. And, so we'll see. We'll see how that all comes out, because it's all being exposed. But what is troubling is I was doing some searches because I've been searching with Team Find Richard Halliday, um, you, you know, all about this man, because what he was saying in the media, and the media was covering him with, and he's an unreliable source like Leilani Hart, right? Um, so, these are both criminals. These are convicted criminals. But the media is taking him and, repeating what he's saying. And when he got caught, um, I guess the narrative didn't fit, because when Patrick Crusius, and if you don't know this, his witness testimony was that he threw soda bottles at Patrick Crusius, and that he was shot twice with an AR-17, I don't know, with one of those rifles. And those rifles, according to my husband's a PA, if you get shot twice with one of those, that kind of caliber, no way, no way is he going to be walking around, going to the automotive area, and then walking from the automotive area out to a truck to get into a truck to go to a hospital. You know, no way, no way. So it must be maybe a much smaller caliber. Um, so this is why we're, investigating to see, because what he was saying, even the El Paso Police Department said no, uh, he's not truthful. But they did not say, you know what, he's a convicted criminal. He's a criminal. He's a perpetual criminal. He has an open warrant out for his arrest. We need to arrest him, right? That's not what the El Paso Police Department said, which is really concerning. And we know that Nieto, Jesus Nieto, known as Eddie, he's a junior, is a supervisory agent for the FBI there in El Paso. And we know that he's up to no good. He's up to no good because of the reports that we've gotten in our open records, and his dealings with dirty agent Marlon Soto, his dealings with dirty Tavita Nusa, who's having sex acts with Lilani Hart, adulterous, because they're married to two different people. Okay, this is illegal, especially when you're in law enforcement, especially when you're in criminal investigative division, because you can be blackmailed easy. Because in these sex acts, everyone has phones, right? You are at great risk of being videotaped and blackmailed, okay? To your children, to the rest of your family, to your spouse, to your job. And so we don't know if Tavita Nusa was being blackmailed, but we know that he was engaged in sex acts with Lilani Hart, and this was adulterous on both parts. Okay, we know that Soto did not have him arrested. We know that they were in cahoots with Nieto. We know this. We have proof. We have proof. We have um, audio now proving that Tavita Nusa lost his badge, that he did lose his badge. We know that he was engaged in road rage, I believe on 14th of September. And that was after he lost his badge, because he tried to use his status as a CID, which was no longer there, as an excuse to not get arrested. So, yeah, it is now, instead of a camouflage. I'm so glad that you came on. I'm so glad. If you are Lilani Hart, I'm glad that you came on, because we do have proof, and we have been turning it in and turning it in, turning it in. That's probably why you've come on, because we have been giving that proof to everybody. All the authorities writing letters and letters and letters and letters, because we want to know, where's Richard? Camouflage, saboteur, deceiver. Where is Richard? What happened to Richard? What did you do to Richard? Where did you put Richard? We want our son. We want our son's remains. We want to know, because he's our son. And this is attack on our family to have this kind of crime go on and on and on for 3.5 years. And will go on for however long it takes to get our son. Um, and we have lots of proof. We Judge Robert Shook, um, you know, they're not going to hide forever, and confessions, confessions, plea deals. Um, I don't know how long Felix Valenzuela can hide this stuff. I don't know. It's I know client lawyer privilege, but we're talking about major crime, not just Richard's case, but what about Glendon Oakley Jr.? What about the Walmart mass shooting? So, do I seem flustered? I am very flustered. I am very flustered. I'm flustered with the FBI. I'm flustered with CID. I'm flustered with Bill Hicks because he's worse than a Fannie Willis in my eyes. Am I flustered with a Fannie Willis? Absolutely. Absolutely. Because the people of Georgia suffer under that. I mean, did you see that? I mean, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a DA. I'm not an AG. I'm a mom. I'm allowed to be a little flustered. But when you are like Donna Sifford and you are Customs Border Protector and you're in a Walmart where people are getting shot and you left your sidearm at home, yeah, something is very wrong there. Something is very wrong. And the connections are greater than just, oh, let me save this person that supposedly got shot by this, what is it called? AR-15. Um, yeah, and uh, and then and then he is talking his baloney, his vile and vulgar baloney, and who am I talking about? Chris Grant, who has gone ghost. He's gone ghost. Before I could look things up, he's gone ghost. They've cleaned it off the website. He's gone ghost. And why? Why are they protecting a convicted criminal? Why are they protecting Leilani Hart and uh, Ernest Chris Grant? Why? Are they some kind of agent for foreign and domestic enemy? Because they should be arrested. See, this is what tipped us off to the FBI. This is what tipped us off into looking at who's leading the FBI, because they should absolutely have her arrested for all the proof that we have given, for the audio, for the screenshots, for the family connections, for the business connections, for, all the proof that we have. All the proof we have that Dallas Hart is Richard's platoon leader. All that proof. Um, yeah. And more, Chris Grant is not a hero. Okay? Chris Grant is not a hero. He's a perpetual criminal that absolutely spread vile and vulgar messaging, propaganda through the help of media that were political attack dogs and, for bonds and for a diversion. I mean, it doesn't take it doesn't take a doctorate degree to put this together. It just takes some time. It takes just a small bit of effort because they're very, very messy. And, I'm a teacher, I'm a researcher. My husband is medical, he's a scientist, he's a researcher. My husband's favorite thing to say is, you need to know how to test a test, and what is it? What does he say? Study a study. You need to know how to test a test and study a study. Because just because a test says so doesn't mean it passes the test. And just because a study might say something doesn't mean they've studied. And, you spend a little bit of time and you see that Patrick Crucius, something is wrong with him, then you find out he's autistic. Then you find through public records with a little bit of, study the study, you see that the judge says he has a severe mental health condition, which corroborates the witness that said he has autism, which corroborates the many pictures and his actions in court, his responses, his wearing of ear protection. Is he part of the criminal enterprise? Yes. But was it what they said? You have to study a study. What is true? What is not true? Absolutely, in his testimony, he said he was not racist. When he surrendered himself to a Hispanic police officer. Was there any blood on his shoes? He had white soles on his feet, on these shoes that he had that weren't squeaky shoes. There were white soles. And there was no soda on them. There was no blood on them. If he did what Chris Grant said he did, there would be evidence. But there was no evidence. There was no evidence. He gave himself up, and then he allowed people to say the worst kind of things to him, and shaking his head, no, that's not how I feel. And he was convicted, and he is going to spend 90 consecutive life sentences back to back at the Alcatraz of the Rockies in Florence, Colorado. That's around 8,000 years. But there are murderers walking because he wasn't alone. He didn't act alone. And it's connected to those from 3905 Bliss Avenue, 3705 Bliss Avenue, Dreams Cabaret, Van Buren Avenue, and other places that people were in business together. And this was an orchestrated act. Not because, I'm guessing. No. I'm not guessing, because you look with others, with witnesses that bring forth evidence. You look yourself with evidence. You put the evidence together, or the lack thereof, and then you say this was orchestrated because there were mall cops with M4s. There were shots the mall, in the mall area. There's many witnesses that there was shots out in the parking lot, that some of the gunmen were all in black with masks on. Patrick Crucius was not all in black, and he did not have a mask on. And the witnesses did not say he had hearing protection on, because if the shooter that they were talking about, with all in black, with the mask on, had hearing protection, they would have said so, and they didn't. They didn't. And there were witnesses that did not know where to run. Should we run outside? No, there were shots fired outside. Should we run inside? No, there were shots fired inside. So, there were multiple shooters. And there was a getaway car. And so what Cris Grant, a perpetual criminal, an unreliable source, which means he has, and I want to say something else, because I think this goes along with his testimony. I was watching the Fannie Willis stuff and their testimonies, and it was so clear that they were unreliable. Okay? Very clear that Leilani Hart is unreliable. Very clear that Dallas Hart, unreliable. Very clear that James Hart, unreliable. Very clear that Soto, unreliable. Tavita Nusa, unreliable. But where did I get the scrutiny from? Okay, so I did a study of the American court system when it first began. So they say, first began. And did you know that the reliability of a witness was very, very important? You had to swear on the Bible, right? We still swear on the Bible. But did you know, and this is something that very few people know, and I didn't know, but because of this study, I thought it was, very telling. You could not even be a witness in the court of law in the United States when it first started, and look this up, unless you were a baptized Christian. Unless you were a baptized Christian, you could not, because it meant that if you swore on the Bible and you are a baptized Christian, then your testimony could be reliable because you had an allegiance to swearing on the Bible, to taking an oath on the Bible. But if you were not a baptized Christian, you had no allegiance to that. So that oath, that swearing on the Bible meant nothing to you. And so you were an unreliable source. I think that's very interesting information. And I learned that many years ago. And so I'm not saying that all baptized Christians are reliable sources. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that was a requirement. That was a first step requirement. And of course, we have our perjury laws to prove that they didn't even trust a baptized Christian totally, right? Just to make it clear. And watching these testimonies make a mockery out of our system, and seeing Leilani Hart being used by El Paso matters as an attack machine to hurt the investigation of our son's case and to comb through that article quickly. What? It took a day? A day to comb through it? And absolutely, without a doubt, you could tell that it was unreliable. You know, you cannot just take things at face value. And so that's why for years, day in and day out, we'll come on here and, we will be very transparent, as transparent as we absolutely can be with the public about our son's case, about who we are as a family. Because so many lies, propaganda, smears, untruths have been put out there. And I think we've debunked, especially for Richard. He's an absolute hero. And everyone absolutely needs to know that he was exposing these people before the Walmart mass shooting. He was exposing them. And for a young man to do that is really amazing, because we know what the military is like. We know what the barracks are like. We know, we didn't know that they were as bad as they are, because now I just got a report from the inside of barracks, not there at Fort Bliss, in a different location. And there is such a bad cocaine problem. It is scary. It is so scary how many soldiers are on cocaine, really having medical problems. So, this is a leadership problem. The Fort Bliss breaches in security is a leadership problem. The barracks being a marketplace for illegal drugs is a leadership problem. The illegal weapons, the unregistered weapons, the weapons being smuggled, the ammunition being smuggled, that is a leadership problem. Absolutely. And that's why you see a 14-year-old girl living in the barracks on Fort Bliss being pimped out, and she is the stepdaughter of one of the DES's guards. Yeah, Thomas Kane. Thomas Kane's, one of his guards' stepdaughter, is living in the barracks being pimped out because of the breaches of security on Fort Bliss, which he is the chief of security on El Paso at that time. Now it's Patrick Dyer, who has decided to rub shoulders with that, to continue the breach of the security, to allow the pedophilia, the sex cults, the adulterous sex acts. And, I will absolutely stand against the adulterous sex acts that destroy families. Because if people are willing to engage in those kinds of acts, which is treason against the family, treason against their children, treason against their spouse, treason against their ancestors, treason against the future, then they will absolutely not be trustworthy in anything that they do. Nothing. So, this, oh, it's okay. It's not okay. And this is why we have a lot of the problems that we do today. And I will stand against that. So, and whatever people say, whatever, because we've been hypnotized that should be tolerated, and it's just too destructive to be tolerated, for me, in my opinion. And so, and I hope everyone knows our family now. Um, to know we try really hard. We try really hard to not be a problem to anybody. But when our son is murdered, missing, we want answers. We want answers. And if murderers are walking around because the DA's office is a phony DA's office, is probably illegitimate. I'm thinking that Bill Hicks is illegitimate. And the only purpose why they had to put him in was to rehire John Briggs. John Briggs. He's it's kind of, this is another thing I was thinking about with Fannie, what's her name? Willis. Oh yeah. What you talking about, Willis? Yeah, Fannie Willis. Is in 7 months they went on 5 vacations. You know, she's the DA of Fulton County, right? They both work together. And who's doing the work? Do they have a John Briggs there too? Because I absolutely see that Bill Hicks is not doing the work. He's too busy covering his conflicts of interest with Purchase Funeral Homes. Because that is such a conflict of interest. Absolutely, he was not qualified to be in that DA position when you are representing Purchase Funeral Homes. I mean, talk about conflicts of interest all over the place there. So, who's doing the work? Well, we know John Briggs is in charge of the murder cases. We know that he was leaving them in pieces. We know that Loretta Lynn Hewitt, a hero, you want to talk about heroes, she's the hero because she put it in writing. You want proof? You see what she wrote. You see what she wrote. Just like the judge saying that Patrick Cris has a severe, he didn't say slight, right? Or, a mental health condition. No, he said a severe mental health condition. So that, that's in writing. That's in writing. And Loretta Lynn Hewitt saying that John Briggs is a problem, Diaz is the problem, Bill Hicks is the problem. Everything was for politics, and leaving the cases in pieces. That means letting murderers walk. That's what that means. No accountability. Letting murderers walk. That includes the murderers from whoever helped Patrick Cris, whoever were the other shooters, because absolutely this was not a lone wolf scenario. No. No way. The proof is overwhelming that this is an organized multiple shooting, mass murder. So, yeah. So, absolutely, politics um, is driving the DA's office. And Yvonne Rosales was, we have proof through the El Paso Police Department open records that she was looking into Richard's case, that Richard's case is part of the Walmart case, um, because Richard was, before the Walmart case, connected to these individuals by reporting on them. 3905 Bliss Avenue, 3705 Bliss Avenue. Um, and, that's not a coincidence that these same people who, were in the target of being exposed for their criminal activities, then had nothing to lose and participated in the Walmart mass shooting. Um, in some kind of way, I'm not saying they were the murderers. Some of them just participated in other ways. And like Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, um, yeah, uh, that is, as soon as I know more, absolutely 100%, I will let you know, because the evidence is pouring in on that one, and it's very shocking, y'all, because of the connections with others. And just know this, it's a criminal enterprise. Yes. And Cris Grant ghosting, being ghosted, who's ghosting him? It has to be the government. It has to be the law enforcement ghosting him. Why? Why? They had him all over all the media. All over. He was the media darling. They had him meeting with Governor Abbott in person, and the media covering him, discussing that he was in a conversation about gun control with the governor of Texas. So I have to become a perpetual criminal and spread vile and vulgar information for the media to be on my side so I can get a meeting with the governor of Texas, because let me tell you, um, that's not an easy thing to do. And for Chris Cuomo to come down and visit him in the hospital, and for Beto to come visit him in the hospital, and Donna Siffer to come visit him in the hospital, and make this with the media there, with the media. No, you have to stand back and you have to look. Oh, when was the media there? Why were the media there? What for? And who is this guy? Who is this guy that gets all this attention? Who is the media, like Corchado, um, who is the husband of Angela Cocherga, who's totally up to no good, totally criminal. And she has, a husband that has a relationship with the Hart family before this whole thing. I mean, okay, Texas Hart, let me interview you. Come on. That's that's not a coincidence. That's called a relationship. Those are called connections. And if you just say, "Oh, that's not a coincidence. Let me look into that." Then it takes a little time, but you look into it and you find the connections. And so for her to use Leilani Hart, um, an unreliable source, she absolutely knew Leilani Hart was an unreliable source, to sabotage, to be a camouflage saboteur deceiver in a missing soldier's case. Not just any missing soldier's case, but the Vanessa Guillen first absent soldier's case. You know, that's so disrespectful to Vanessa Guillen's memory and to her family. And that whole El Paso Matters, KTEP sabotage, attempt sabotage, is an assault on the Guillen family and the memory of Vanessa Guillen. What is a made-up title? That Richard is the first CONUS S1 missing soldier under the Vanessa Guillen absent soldier flowchart, the new Vanessa Guillen absent soldier flowchart. He is the Vanessa Guillen first absent soldier. That's official. That's an official title given by the United States Army to him. After they had to lick their wounds and were driven to do something, a little something, after they found Vanessa's remains in a foxhole, chopped up, burnt, after being sexually assaulted and bludgeoned to death with a hammer in the arms room and stuffed in a pelican case. And they didn't find her body. Her body was found by line workers because animals were trying to dig it up. Even though it was the most sophisticated crime scene that Texas EquiSearch reported that they've ever seen in a recovery, because it was a foxhole with lime and concrete and then dirt on top of it. But the animals still knew. And the line workers were wondering why these animals were digging like that. And that's how her body was recovered. Her remains were recovered. So that's not, Lalani, if that's you, camouflage, saboteur, deceiver, I don't know if it's you. It could be someone else. It could be Dallas Hart. It could be James Hart. It could be Tavita Nusa. I don't know who it is. But Richard is not AWOL. His identity has been stolen. We know that his social security number has been used, so we looked into it. It's stolen. He's not AWOL. You want him to be AWOL because because we have proof, because we have an eyewitness. We have an eyewitness to your insanity. Yeah. So, thank you. Thank you, Sandra. Big hugs to you too. Yeah. Don't forget to share this, to absolutely comment, to share, because it's everybody watching. It's everybody sharing. It's everybody letting everyone know that we absolutely have evidence, hard evidence, irregularities, and circumstantial evidence, piles of it, piles of all three, of proof. Because if the CID is dirty, if the DES is dirty, if the FBI is dirty, if Lalani Hart is dirty, if the Customs Border Protector Donna Sifford is dirty, if Chris Grant is dirty, if the media is dirty, if Angela Kachurga is dirty, if Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia is dirty, and they're all connected through these addresses, through their possessions, through their business dealings, their LLCs. That's not a coincidence. And so, I didn't do that. They did that. All we did as Team Find Richard Halliday was say, who hurt Richard? Who hurt Richard? Because one of the biggest evidences that we have are the meetings, because they were shaking. They were in agony. They were in agony and they were shaking, and they were, where was the regular protocol? Right? They didn't know what to do with Nadal Baim, because now we know that Nieto has connections with Bugado, who's the lieutenant colonel in the G3 of the 32nd ADCOM, which is Richard's command. And we have Leilani Hart connected to Clem Coward, Richard's 2-star general, the one that retaliated against Richard, even though Richard was exonerated on the 9th of July of 2020. It's so, you've got evidence upon evidence upon evidence. Anthony Swafford, that's a very important testimony, because it shows even the Fort Bliss police giving false testimony about Richard, trying to smear him, lodging a smear campaign on a missing soldier after Vanessa Guillen had just been found. Really? Really? You're not going to say, let's find them. Let's find them. But no, we have evidence that they said we can't have another Guillen situation. We can't have another Guillen situation. What did that mean? Because they didn't act to the point where let's find Richard. They didn't do that. We have proof that they did not do that. They didn't even start until the 1st of September. So, that irregularity in itself is to say, okay, he's chopped up. He's murdered and chopped up like Vanessa Guillen, and we don't want another Guillen situation, meaning we don't want his body to be found. We don't want his remains to be found. That's what it means to us. And can you imagine what that does to us? To have to even come on here and say it? But people need to know, because it's not just Richard. Look at what they did to that beautiful Glendon Oakley Jr. Look at what they did to Asia Graham. So, and there's many more. So let's pray that the next few days, because the primaries are coming up, and we've been working very hard behind the scenes to expose Bill Hicks for his crimes. And, I would like to see him arrested. I would like to see Leilani Hart arrested. I would like to see Tavita Nusa arrested, but I hear that he's kind of disappeared too. I don't know where he's at. Maybe he's in Florida. I don't know. Maybe he's in Western Samoa. That's where he's from. There's some immigration doubt there in that family. And, and so I don't know if they didn't do their paperwork properly. I don't know. It's kind of like Bill Hicks. He didn't do his paperwork properly. And, I come from an immigrant family. My mother, uh, you know, in White Sands gave up her German citizenship and learned about the United States and became an American citizen. White Sands Missile Range, that's where she got her citizenship. Yep. So I absolutely love the fact that you can immigrate, but you need to do it right. And you need to do it right with how can I be a blessing to this country? How can I be a blessing to my community? How can I be a blessing to my family? That's the attitude that we should have. So, and I think it's Lent. I think it's a good time to think about that. Um, how can we be a blessing in the situations that we're in? No compromising to evil, no compromising to the criminal enterprises, no compromising to the sex cults, no compromising to the pedophiles and the child pornography, which is child torture. No compromising. No, because that's doing harm. And do no harm. Be a blessing. Okay, with that, I want to wish everyone a good night, and I want to thank. I think this is Lalani Hart. I don't know. I don't know. She can definitely come on. Um, she should turn herself in because the evidence is overwhelming against her and against her son, Dallas Hart, who both of them are suspects in the forced disappearance and the murder of our son, Richard Halliday. Both of them, with Tavita Nusa and others. Jay Paulin needs to make public his confession. Um, so thank you, everyone. God bless you. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing. Bye bye.